Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you guys are watching from. It is me, Naisu, once again joined here with Burger Kim for the final match here, at least for today anyway, for the American Regional Qualifier for the playoffs here. And we're down to this match between Ecuador, I believe it's Ecuador and Guatemala. Yeah. So very excited for this. I know we've had quite a long time here for Kim. You know, we've seen a lot of great games, mostly sweeps, but maybe this is the one where we get another 3-game series, them finding it out. Ecuador and Guatemala. I believe it was Guatemala that earlier today had the 3-game series, and we'll see what they end up doing here against Ecuador. So how are we feeling so far about the day, the games, and now that we're in the playoffs here?
Oh, actually, you asked me earlier about which team really stood out for me or maybe impressed me, and I did mention Ecuador. Based on what I've seen, they've had a very good good understanding of the game, and at the same time they know how to draft well. On the flip side, though, Guatemala, they've been going or using these very uncontemporary lineups. You've seen the Hylos Benedetta combination worked well for them. They have some pocket picks as well coming into this matchup. This is the last one, so based on the standings, it should be Ecuador. When it comes to overall wins, it's Ecuador definitely, based on the prediction. But for Guatemala, if they can pull off against something surprising here, it should be good for them. Let's take a look at Ecuador here, Naisu. You got still the same Einar, Nikolai, Rosa, Cahill, and Lucas.
Yeah, and with this lineup, again, with Ecuador, if, recalling correctly, they were able to actually turn things around in their match earlier today. And the lineups that they bring are very, in a sense, it's pretty much meta-based, their picks. I like what they bring to the table and everything else. And I think Rosa especially is a big part of what helped them win their games previously. I know it was nice to see even the Natan pick come up for Rosa. And one thing about Ecuador that really impressed me, at least today alone, was their patience, the discipline that they had. Because at one point, their base was completely exposed, they were down, and then just with taking their time, kind of being a disciplined teamwork effort, they were able to turn things around and win the game 1 that they had. And then they ended up doing that again, I think, even in game 2, where they were a lot more solid. And the teamwork is definitely there with Ecuador, and that's something that was very impressive from them. Einar, like I said too, Einar has done great things, but really the standout for me, like I said, is Rosa. So I think for Guatemala, if we're thinking about this from a, obviously one of these teams wants to beat the other here, Guatemala has to focus on Rosa and try to, shut down that gold lane, shut down that build up here. Because looking at Guatemala's lineup once again, we've got Vulture, we've got Cholo 97, Zayat Sub, and Sally B, right? But I think also, if I recall correctly, Guatemala also played with one of their substitutes earlier on today as well. If I'm remembering, I think it was Honeymoon. Honeymoon. So I don't know if Guatemala wants to shake things up a bit here, but I also know we also have to point out that, this is one of the teams too that switched roles. Cholo was in the jungle once and then switched to, I think it was gold or one of the two. But this is a team that definitely has a great dynamic here.
Yeah, I think unpredictable is the word.
It's a good word,
the term for Guatemala's overall feel. From their lineup down to their draft, they really love playing around with it. And even the players, you see sometimes, I think even Zayd would switch up roles. Sometimes he's XP, sometimes he's on the gold lane. So I think that for Ecuador, they can't do target banning, because you don't know who they're gonna field next, right? Is it gonna be Cholo on the XP, Cholo on the jungle? So that's something that they also have to consider in the draft. Whereas Ecuador is a little bit more clean, a little bit more honest. Who's gonna play which role, so they can do for Guatemala in the drafting phase. They can just go straight forward and ban out certain heroes.
Yeah, it's I think that's at this point too. It's pretty much is there anything left in the tank of these teams to bring to the table in terms of unique picks? Because so far, I would say this has probably been, for the American regional qualifiers up to this point, this has probably been the most unique um, like mix of compositions that we've seen from all the qualifiers. I'm not sure. I guess I can't speak for the European qualifier
Yeah.
because I was busy with a different tournament. But it's like
Yeah.
you covered that. Are you seeing the same thing at least for American regional qualifier? Because these are we've been in this meta now. I would say for a good month plus, maybe two
Yeah.
months even on that new patch. But has this been pretty unique, at least from what you've seen so far in comparison to the European? Or was there also like some of these interesting compositions and
Oh yeah.
switch ups, because there's so many teams here that even switch up roles, Kim. So do you notice the same thing with the American qualifiers here?
Yeah, I think for the European qualifiers, I don't really see that much of like switching up roles, especially in a crucial matchup. There were some pocket picks here and there, but not as uncontemporary as Guatemala. This is like
Yeah.
you're talking about the Benedetta Gold, and then you got a Cho earlier on the XP as well. So I think they're really creative here for this particular qualifiers, and at the same time, I think I really respect that. Like you can pull off something like that in a major tournament. There's just a lot to talk about, and I think for this particular region, some people can maybe take notes, and you might actually see some of these uncontemporary picks come out in the ranked game.
Yeah, and we'll see, because we're going to be in the draft very shortly here. I think at the same time, most of the games between these two teams have been rather quick. We have had some longer ones
Yeah.
now, getting to that almost a 20-minute mark or plus a 20-minute mark. And but through the group stages, I would say relatively we saw games ending for these teams 15 minutes and faster. So I think again at this point you really have to just highlight the fact that the lineups that they're bringing to the table, especially if they get their hands on these assassin picks. We've seen, for
Oh, yeah.
example, INR do a couple different things in terms of the jungle. So, and like I said, Cholo 97 was their
Yeah.
jungle for one of the games, and then he ended up switching. So I think it's
Yeah.
partly like, do they start with assassins, for example? Do they start there? Do they build up from there? Do they get momentum going? And also, interestingly enough too, I think it is Ecuador that is one of the few teams that actually likes to play some of the sustain comps. For the most part, we've seen a lot of setup roamers,
Yeah.
but if I remember right, Cahill is one of the players that likes to even bring out some of the sustained heroes. And
He brought
play
out a
around
high
that.
loss, if I'm not mistaken. This was
Yeah.
one of the matches in the group stage that they even brought out the high loss. I think it was Cahill that used it, and then there was a double
Yep.
retribution coming out. Was able to steal away a lot of the jungle creeps from the opponent, and I think the double retribution is not really that much of a cheese, but more of like kind of taking away resources from your opponent. So I think they can get as creative as that. But this is already one of the last few matches that we're gonna be having here. So not so sure if they're gonna pull that off. Like, I mean, USA pulled off that all retry,
Yeah,
all
everybody
arrival.
saw that at that
Yeah.
point.
but I don't think it's gonna happen here. I would say pocket picks, maybe pocket strats, especially from I think Guatemala. So I expect to see that. And for Ecuador, they have to be prepared for everything that Guatemala is going to toss out, because again, you don't know who's going to be playing who. Are they going to be fielding their sub player, or are they going to go with their main five? So I think that's the thing here. But for Ecuador, I think they've been pretty much stable, standing at I think number 2, if I'm not mistaken, on their
For their group.
They were the group, yeah. It's
Yep,
not far
yep.
behind.
They were tied for a little bit with Dominican Republic,
Yeah.
but yeah, they bumped up there based on the results today.
Yeah, it's actually not that bad if you think about it, because this is a group like America's A is just loaded with lots of teams, lots of countries. You got 11 coming in here, and finishing at least number 2 in your groups is not that bad if you think about it. Not that far away from Colombia as well, who has secured in the top spot here for America's A, as compared to America's B, which we've already have a country, which is Argentina, that is going to WEC this year. But I think it's going to be a little bit more tighter when it comes to America's A, when we're talking about that last 2 slots to WEC this year.
While we're on this topic and we're waiting to jump to the draft here, I think again, just so our viewers know, if you guys want to check things out, head over to isf.gg. You can see all the standings for this. I know we're down to our last, well, essentially after our last match here on stream today. We only have 1 day left, and we will be covering the female MLBB as well tomorrow. So we'll have that, and then we'll have the remaining matches for the playoffs tomorrow. But while we're on that note, I think even with thinking about like ahead of us, in Riyadh, it seems like everything's happening in Riyadh this year. But as we think about Riyadh ahead of us and what these teams have been able to showcase throughout the online qualifiers, at least, it's there's very distinct play styles, I would say, from each region. But one thing that's definite, and this is actually the case that we've seen from like, some of the very competitive, very highly competitive tournaments going on recently, even, that this patch, the big changes that have happened here, actually really, I feel like, is just better for the majority of teams, the majority of countries. They seem to adapt to this certain play style that's much more chaotic. I mean, if you even think about it, like, you've done some of the play-by-play already. I'm sure you feel like you're doing way more play-by-play than before. You know what I mean? Like, the fights don't stop. It feels like, and sometimes, that's a good thing, because some of these teams really shine in the chaos that they. Once again, it's a best of 3 between these two teams, Ecuador and Guatemala. And we'll see what they end up doing. Oh, that's right. Guatemala, also the team. Remember this too. Rios Montt was the one playing previously today too. And that's the switching that they were doing. The combination they brought out was brilliant. I don't know if they'll do it again, but it was the mix of the Hylos with the Benedetta gold.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to go that way again.
Oh yeah. I guess pocket strat coming out from Guatemala, but what I really notice is that Rios Montt is a really good side lane. Like, wherever you put him, gold lane, XP lane. But it was a different story earlier when they actually switched it up to use the Hayabusa. I'm not so sure if it was like just the overall synergy or just the overall composition of that draft, but it didn't really work out well. So I think for this one, if they want to work around the assassins, I don't think Cholo 97 is that confident with the assassins. Like, mostly on the Julian, sometimes maybe even like the fighter junglers, but never the assassin, because once they pick up the assassin, you kind of know it's either Rios that will use it, or maybe perhaps again a switch up of roles on the sides here for Guatemala, which is what really makes it exciting for the draft. For Ecuador, you mentioned a lot of the assassins that can really snowball really fast. They take it away immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ling would also be taken out here. Those are the usual go-to bans when it comes to this current patch, and honestly, I don't like them myself. If I'm drafting, I usually just take away the assassins, because honestly, it's so hard, especially when that hero just completely snowballs in the early game, and it's kind of hard to fight back like mid to late. There's really nothing you can do.
It's as they get things through here, because I believe visually we can't see just yet, because I think they're done with the bans as well, and then getting to the picks here. So we'll have to get word on what they are picking, because we got word, there's a technical thing with the CUD going on right now. So we'll get a word on what's being picked up, so we can actually kind of contemplate the lineups that they're going to bring to the table. Okay. I'm trying to remember some of these voice lines here, Kim, but they're getting through their picks. And I think main thing is, if that Fanny, I don't even know if that was going to be if that Fanny ban was legitimate, you know what I mean? Or maybe it was something different. Obviously, one thing's for sure is, by this time, both these teams have enough information on each other through these online streams as well, that there's probably some targeted bans going on and picks and priorities as well. I think, like I was mentioning, Guatemala is the team that I'm going to be looking to for this matchup, because of what they brought up to the table earlier today, like some very unorthodox picks that ended up working. I even doubted it at first, because it was a Hylos, Benedetta, Kadita like combination, and it ended up working out very well for Guatemala. So really interested to see what else they have in the tank to bring to the table here. And then on the other side, Ecuador, like I said, they were like a comeback team. Like, the biggest thing. So if I would have to put it into like a phrase, like Guatemala is like innovation, Ecuador is like comeback potential.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're for so far at least.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
kings of comeback here for the American regionals.
Yeah, pulling off a comeback is not that easy. Reverse sweeps, even we've seen game number 3 that was Guatemala earlier. But I think it was the very first match, so they actually opened and closed the day here for the Americas regional qualifier. So we're still waiting for the draft to come up. So I believe that is there you have it. We have
Okay,
word
we
here.
get word.
So it's a Fanny. So it's right. It's a Fanny, Harriet, and the Hayabusa here for Ecuador.
Hayabusa
Those are the
band,
bands. Can't really see the bands coming out here for Guatemala, but it is a Zushin coming through. Combine it with the Terizla, the Lolita here for Ecuador, and then you got the Julian pick of Cholo 97. So that itself,
Yep.
I already know who's going to be the jungler here for the side of Guatemala. They also have a Nathan here for the second pick, so we'll have to wait for the next few picks here coming through for both sides.
Okay, so based off that, I'm still wondering what Rose is going to play. Because again, you already, the fact that you get a Jushin locked in early on for Nikolai, I'm assuming Nikolai is going to be playing that, works great. And we actually saw this where I think it was Vengeance. Yeah, Vengeance.
Oh, yeah.
Jushin was
Jushin.
picked up. And they were up against, if you recall, this was a Hellkurt Rome. That was kind of the answer to try to deal with it. And, unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end, but, it was effective for a while. But Jushin, Terizla, and Lolita locked in early on is actually a pretty good start for the first phase. I'm wondering what that third pick was for Guatemala, though. But yeah, like you mentioned, Julian's just been a monster in the current meta, not just here for IESF, but actually everywhere. Julian's been doing great things, and part of it, again, is like he has so much good early damage that like his damage alone early on is quite a threat. But it's not even that. It's actually, for me, when I see these Julians being successful, it's the enhanced chains. Okay, here we go. All right, so draft, it looks like Ecuador respects some of the stuff Guatemala pulled up earlier, like I mentioned, that Kadita pick especially. And then we have Guatemala really respecting the fact that Ecuador showed what they can do on these heroes, especially that Mozkov we've seen, the Ling as well. Ruby has been a mainstay. And so you have a Zask, because Zask and Minotaur was that those picks from Guatemala too. This is great. I mean, there's a lot of magic damage here, so Guatemala's lineups are looking pretty scary. It's just they're very heavy in the magic department.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is way too good. I'm actually surprised the Zas slipped up here for in the second phase actually of the ban. Last pick for Ecuador, it's gonna be the Claude that has a little bit more mobility, but with the Zas though, that is just way too good right now in the current patch. Almost never slipped up. Guatemala gonna lock in the Benedetta. The Benedetta of Rios Mott. I believe he's gonna be the XP this time. I mean, there's a Nathan there, so this is the only logical explanation that I can think of. XP lane Rios, which is still pretty much what we've seen in the previous games, and then you got Zayt on the Nathan this time to go head-to-head with the Claude here. I'm liking the lineup here of Guatemala. There's so much potential. But for Ecuador as well, they've got some of these power picks, the Jusin, the Terizla, that is almost all the time banned away.
Okay, well, Guatemala, they're packing the magic damage, I would say. We'll see exactly how this ends up working out for them, and if for Ecuador, they can actually withstand the early game pressure that's going to come from that. Because like I was saying, before that Zask was even locked in, the Julian's damage is already a big threat early on, but now there's going to be that, synergy between the two, especially if so far from what we've seen, Julian will lock in the Genius Wand at some point. And so that damage from that Zask is going to hurt even more. So I got to see if Ecuador has it in them to kind of buckle down and make their lineup work, because theirs is a lot more, staple. It's a lot more evenly spread in terms of damage. The damage profiles, they're good in the magic, they're good in the physical. And even for both teams here, the setup potential for both of them is going to be great too. But with that being said, let's jump into the Land of Dawn here. Last match for this day. Now that we're in the playoffs here for the American Regional Qualifiers for the road to Riyadh, the WEC. This is the best of 3, and we're down to game number 1 here between these two teams. We'll see exactly how they want to play this out, Ecuador and Guatemala. So early on, rotation-wise, this is what we can expect. But I want to look at the emblems too. I want to see what they went. I know Nikolai brought up the Vengeance. Whoa, early action
Yeah.
already.
Yep, Cahill taken down real low here as Cholo 97 in trouble! As Einer will pick up that kill with the Decimate. Great start here for the side of Guatemala. Or rather, Ecuador.
Oh, that's the scary thing about Martis. You have you have that Decimate available to you. The snowball potential is going to be really good. And so they'll go ahead and kind of adjust from that. It looks like they're going to rotate down bottom too. See exactly what they want to do. But for Guatemala,
Yep.
oh, are they actually going to be able to withstand this? You can see this already happening. So luckily Cholo is going to be there. It's spotted out. A lot of them just want that level 4 because, Turtle's going to come up here. So as much as possible, you want all these ultimates online that you can. Heal doesn't have the Pneumo Blast just yet. But at least for, the rest, they have some of those level 4s available. No one's starting up the Turtle just yet, though, because of the fact. I think even for Sub, if Sub was able to manage to get the ultimate here, it'd be crucial. Cholo's in position, though. Turtle less than half health.
Yeah, Cholo 97 will be able to look for the steal. It's gonna be Einer picking up the turtle, and now the Crimson Beacon from Nikolai able to pick up 2. Sub and Cholo 97 goes down as Rios Mont gonna try to go in for something. Gets taken down as well from the Decimate. Honeymoon comes in with the Dominator's Descent. That's a double kill picked up by the mid laner.
Oh, meanwhile,
top side? Oh no, Zayt. Not gonna be able to survive the blazing duet with a slither of health. Roses got in the corrosion side as well, so there's the slows coming out from that. But man, just the answer rather from the side of Ecuador is just really, really good, especially when it comes to the team fight.
Yeah, great start here once again for Ecuador. This is what we kind of expected again watching them play earlier today. They have a lot of good decisiveness to their team in general. Like the way that they even move around the map. Like I mentioned, we had multiple of them move down to that bottom side before that turtle come up and then win a very decisive fight. Part of that too is just Luca's able to use that penalty zone on cue. So now it looks like Guatemala wants to pay a visit up top here, but they won't be able to find Rose. It's going to be a little bit harder than that. But as you can see right now, the answer is going to be here from Ecuador because the protection that this lineup provides as well, like just having a Lolita here, and I'm wondering if Cahill's going to go ahead and rush the Flask of the Oasis because, provide a little bit of those extra shields. Yeah, you can see a Dominance Ice also picked up by Lucas early on, so he's that tank Terizla for the most part before this.
Yeah, there are times that I would also see people or some players actually build up the Blood Wings on the Lolita just to give up a little more shields to the team. But what's really annoying though is the Crimson Beacon here. If somebody just picks you up, throws you into the team fight, but Einer solo kill there onto the bottom side. The turtle is up, and now Cholo 97 taking a brunt of the damage here. The setup is through here for Sub before the Luminant Blast even gets popped in. It's a killing spree for Honeymoon with the Dominator's Descent. Zayt's gonna be able to take down Cahill, but it is going to be Guatemala that definitely picked up the win there. 3 members and of course a turtle to boot.
I'm telling you, man, the damage from his Ask is just too much. Like, you're already seeing it, and that's even with or without Cholo around. It's so difficult to deal with Honeymoon because even if you're able to find like a stun or the Numenor Blast setup, you just Dominator's Descent, and then you're fine, and then you're pumping out a ton of damage, and you can't even walk away from it, right? Because the slow is just so much. Very quick turret going down here on the top side. So at this point, Guatemala's pretty much got themselves a little bit of a lead to work with after everything that happened in the past few minutes. So great start here. Cahill also picking up a Dominance Ice early on. Gonna drag here. I'm not sure if they actually want to commit to this fight.
Yep, Cahill though, forced to pop in the Luminous Blast, gets bursted down there by Cholo 97. You got the Crimson Beacon picking up Rios Mont, but of course he's able to slip away from that. I honestly love the combinations coming out here from the side of Guatemala. Very uncontemporary, not the usual setups that you would see. Lots of magic damage though, so I'm kind of worried if this is still going to be as dominant when it comes to the team fights, because you're talking about loads of magic damage. three of them. Cholo 97, you got the gold laner, you got the mid laner, and the jungle. So if ever, it's only up to Riosmont that's going to be dealing the physical damage. But it's just 6 minutes in. So I think for the side of Ecuador, they're just going to take as much turrets as they can as the bottom turret is going to go down.
Yeah, this is just trading, you know, across the map at this point, and you're right. The magic damage is literally like they wanted magic damage, they got it, you know, and I guess it ends up working out really well too, just because of the fact that, like, if you wanted some physical damage, who better to do that than Benedetta? You know, like she's such a big threat in terms of once you land that like the final blow with the Petrify, that's almost enough physical damage in the profile of the team, right? And the fact that they grabbed a Minotaur, and it's weird because Minotaur, he's been kind of slept on. Like, this is like a, you know, you don't sleep on the bull here, and you can see exactly what he's able to do. They're gonna get zoned out though right now because it's just,
Wow.
I guess they just give up this turtle for now. They couldn't get into the zone because they were zoned out by Nikolay. So as I was saying, you know, you don't sleep on the bull, but I'm surprised he's just zoned out that much. He's just not tanky enough. Has the sustain with with of course the motivational roar, but doesn't have, I'm not sure if he has the flask of the Oasis yet. So I'm not sure if we can actually take a look at the items, because I think there's, you know, some technical stuff going on right now at least, but we'll just have to assume that he was working hopefully on that flask. Oh, hold on, Zayt.
Yeah. Yep, Rosa gonna be dealing a lot of the damage though onto Zayt, forced to pop in the entropy there. Actually, last turtle was stolen there by Cholo 97, if I'm not mistaken, so he's able to get the retribution through, whereas yeah, Einar was actually the one starting up that turtle. If you look at the gold lead, it's actually not that far, still in favor of Ecuador right now. And if you're talking about magic damage on the side of Guatemala, there's a whole lot of physical damage on the other side here for Ecuador. It's mostly like physical damage, right? But hold on, you went on blast there like a heal. Does he get anyone? But there's the clapback here from Sub going in for the Minoa's Fury as the Dominator's Descent gonna go down as well. Cholo gonna try to go for Einar here. I like to final blow. A lot of ultimates being used here just to go for the retaliation, as Guatemala is able to actually keep up here with Ecuador.
Yeah, this is tough. Penalty zone.
Yep, Lucas is gonna go in for his play here. Sub gonna get taken down real, get tugged in there by the Crimson Beacon. Sub goes down. Cholo 97 gonna get basic attacked here by Rosa. Tag teamed by 2 as Einar will pick up the kill. Not gonna go for more onto Honeymoon. You got that Dominator's Descent to be able to pop in at the right moment. Riosmont clearing out the waves, but they take what they can for now.
I think we're going the distance in this matchup here. I mean, it's such an even matchup, and it's very well balanced between both these teams, and they're showing that, you know, they want to get this win. They want to start off on the right foot. It's going to be a Lord startup though already here for Ecuador. We'll see if Guatemala actually can answer this.
Sub is going to try to make a play. Khalil is doing a blast, is going to get deleted there. The Lord's still going to be worked on here by Ecuador, and Einar's going to be able to pick it up with the retribution. Here comes Rosa with the Blazing Duet, going to get taken down real low. Chunked everybody from the back lines to half HP, and there's the shutdown from Einar's Decimate. The shutdown comes through as well by Sub, so it is going to be 2 for the price of 1 here for the side of Ecuador. The turret is going to go down as well in the mid side. Lord going to be marching up top, but this time Ecuador just kind of rams it through, gets the middle tower, gets the shutdowns, and at this point you can kind of see the damage also coming through from the Claude here of Rosa. That actually is not bad, standing at the 2-1-3.
Okay, I mean, I'm impressed with what Ecuador is able to do with the lineup, because of, you know, it looks like when Guatemala is able to fight back to do this, like, look at the setups, look at the damage actually.
Yep. Super big damage there. Sub gonna go down. There's the Numina Blast just to zone everybody out. The Lord is still up, by the way, so Guatemala has to deal with this one, as Einar gonna be working on the turrets. The second tier actually on the mid. Lucas as well down bottom. They should be able to melt down this Lord. Cholo 97. They're gonna go in for the enhanced chase as Honeymoon forced to pop in the ultimate as well. Goes all the way out. Einar retribution in. Will he be able to get somebody? The answer's going to be no. They're going to be backing away for now. They do have the Zaz, immense amount of wave clear here for Guatemala, and they are able to defend, but the second tier towers are all gone.
Well, I'm surprised Ecuador didn't get any more of the Holy Shields down. They only got the mid one down. So they were kind of distracted with Guatemala being outside of the base a little bit. I think they would have been better off just, popping all the shields, getting those taken care of, and then going back to things. But, unfortunately for Cahill too, he just kind of got caught out there. And now you see some of the Radiant armors being picked up. There's two now, one for Cahill, one for Lucas. So they have this available to them. They might be able to go ahead and tank up a little bit more of that damage coming out from Honeymoon. And as we take a look, actually, they have three now. So
Yeah, three.
Also, it was Einar that picked it up. And that's exactly what they need to do. Looks like possibly at the same time, you have all the items you need for Rosa, Corrosive Scythe, Golden Staff, DHS, plus a little defense with the Whisper's Crown. See what he ends up building lastly. And then the Bloodwings picked up here by Nikolai. So there's a lot here. Now, for Cholo, he's almost to that Holy Crystal. It's taken him a little bit longer to get there. But once he does have that, there's going to be good burst potential still, even despite the Radiant armors across the board. Part of that, again, is just the setups that can happen from sub. Cholo goes in, gets the enhanced chains, and there you go. Honeymoon will pick up the Divine Glaive. So this is where, this moment, I mean, honestly, at this point, it's anyone's game. I know that we had a push there from Ecuador, and they were knocked on the base of Guatemala, but still, with the given situation, the items falling into place from both teams, I don't know. I think any team can actually go ahead and take this Lord fight here. It really comes down to, I would say, even Katia. Wow.
Wow, that was just what, 2 basic attacks to take down Rios Mon, who just hit that level
Never
13.
Mind.
Yeah, just go
that
in
solves the
straight
problem.
for Yeah, we were talking about the items just early on, and Rosa. I was like, what, 2-3 basic attacks? Even with the passive of the Benedetta coming through, it's still the basic attacks here of Rosa just went through, and it's all care of the corrosion site that kind of slows you down. So for the side of Guatemala, they kind of have to watch out for Rosa here, who is already activated, pretty much activated at this point, 13 minutes in. Just hit that level 15 as well. So he's got a Winter Crown, if I'm not mistaken. So he is prepared to take in those dives, as the Lord's going to be marching down bot here for Guatemala. Map control is going to be towards the side here of Ecuador. So the goal lead is not that far. So if they can punish Ecuador when they dive in too deep here, the gold twin could actually go towards their favor.
Well, we'll see if they have the defense for them. Lord now on the bottom. Part of this, they got to watch out for Rosa. Fully stacked up. Might go in with Blaze Duet. Conceal going to be used too. Watch out. Penalty zone.
Oh, wow. Lucas goes in for the penalty zone. And the win on blast, but Rosa's going to go down. Here's the enhanced chains. Cahill as well, going to be setting things up. They're still surviving. Half HP for the Lord, a little bit too deep into the base. Vengeance being popped here by Nikolai. Everybody's taken down real low. Nightmaric Spawn is up as well. Cahill taking a brunt of the damage though. Even though with the Radiant armors, you can still see the magic damage come through here. 2 members down for the price of the inhibitor down bot. Hefty, but as you can see, gold lead still for Ecuador, but Guatemala's catching up.
Rosa got blown up. I don't know. I guess the timing was off a bit. He should have just waited for the Minoan Fury to go up too. I know he had, I'm not sure, I don't think he had the Purify for that fight either. It's still up now. And so that was tough because, yeah, your main source of damage is that Blazing Duet for the most part, and you just get stopped in your tracks, So what should have been a better push where they possibly even got more of those base turrets down of Guatemala, Ecuador gets stopped in their tracks because of Rosa going down so early on. So Guatemala is able to kind of turn things a little bit in their favor. They got a couple turrets out of it too. And we're back to it, pretty much even Stevens in terms of economy and items. And there's another Radiant armor being picked up. This whole, I don't know, at this point, I'm not sure if Rosa's going to pick one up. But yeah, you have all these defensive magic items. He might go Rose Gold Meteor too, at least to help with Honeymoon. But again, it's the same thing. If Rosa picks off, I guess his only target really would be Rios Mont. Again, quickly before this Lord take, then they're in a good position to do exactly what happened previously. So all Guatemala needs to do is adjust that, right? Like, I'm even surprised they could put Rios Mont topside and push that side lane in a little bit more, unless they just really feel like they need him there to help with this damage into the fight, into the Lord Dance, because he is one of the main sources of physical damage here. So it looks like they're ready. They got the buffs they need. I mean, they haven't grabbed the orange buff yet. And for Ecuador, they could go grab this purple. That's not really necessary for INR, though. That's one good thing, I guess you could say, about a Martiz. You don't need the purple buff so much. It's going to be started up, so we'll see. Looks like Sub wants to get into the zone. Going to continue to drag, though.
Oh, wow. Flickers in, gets the Crimson Beacon. He gets the Minoa's Fury onto 4, but Kahil's going to fall. Not able to pop up the Numenor Blast, and now Zayt as well. Going to be able to free hit everybody from the side of Ecuador. Rios Bond, the shutdown comes through. It's 4 members down here for the side of Ecuador. As for Guatemala, only 2 left, and that's what you really get when you got that extra unit coming out from the Zas. Will they go for the straight push? It's only Nikolai here left to defend. He just got in the Winter Crown, gets in the Crimson Beacon. They should be able to take down this inhibitor. Dead timers are up. Is this gonna be Guatemala again picking up the win? Slice and dice here for Rios Mont. You got the Nightmaric spawn up. Nikolai is able to survive. Drags and Rios Mont for a killing spree. But that's not gonna matter because Guatemala's gonna lock in the base and take in game number 1.
Guatemala, what? And I was saying, it could have been anyone's game there at that point. And Guatemala will pull through. Again, great performance there. Really good targeting, I gotta say. You know, when we're gonna look at the highlights here in just a little bit, but at the end there, the decision to zone out and focus on Rosa, that was Cholo's job, and he did it perfectly because that's the thing. You know, this is the downside of like Jushin's utility is so great. Don't get me wrong, but you lack some of that pure raw damage, magic damage, and that's what the Zask was able to do so much throughout the entirety of the game here. So when you take out the Claude, that's the answer, you know. And when you look at this, Ecuador did a great job early on. They really set the pace, and I think for Guatemala, you know, they just kind of had to answer a lot of this aggression early on. And this is always where Martis shines. Early on, you have Decimate. That's a big threat. There was good plays here from Rosa, INR as well. But at some point in the game, especially mid to late game, this is where those Minoan Furies from Sub really start to pay off. Honeymoon was on point the whole time, even though they struggled as a team early on, but Honeymoon had a great game overall. And there wasn't an answer for it. I mean, I guess the Radiant Armors came in a little bit too late, just weren't enough. And, you know, like I said, the target acquisition from Guatemala is what really kept them into this game. And I think even down to it where, you know, there were some mistakes from the macro side when it came to Ecuador. Like, they were in control of most of the objectives, the decision-making and approaching the base, like, once we get to the Lord territory. And unfortunately, it's just like they didn't play around the Lord well enough to get those base turrets down. And I think Rosa, even to an extent, like, Rosa's like, man, I know I got damage, but look at that, you know, with that entry point, when he goes into that setup, if he would have held off maybe a little bit longer, then he would have gotten a lot more value out of that Blazing Duet. And yeah, he didn't use that Purify during that fight. And this is what I'm saying. Look at this fight. Cholo focuses here on Rosa. Rosa has nowhere to go. Cannot join that fight and use that Blazing Duet for this fight. So, you know, all you're left with essentially is some very tanky people and the utility mage in a fight, and you're going to lose that when you don't have the firepower to help it out. So Ecuador this time around, you know, it was just once Rosa got isolated, the damage just fell through the roof, you know. So very difficult here for Ecuador because relatively close game, you know. It wasn't a one-sided game at all here, but Guatemala definitely pulls through in this game 1.
There's a lot of comforts that were given here to Guatemala. We were talking about like what roster is going to be fielded here for this game, and they go with Cholo 97s, of course, classic Julian. He's so good with this. Prio pick most of the time, and then you can see he's really comfortable with this hero. But I think, you know, one thing that also stood out to me was the setups coming out from Sib's Minotaur. Almost most of the time, like, he would cancel out the Numenon Blast here of Kahil, and not to mention even Honeymoon here on the Zaz's Dominator's Descent. I would say it's very subtle. Like, you don't really notice the Dominator's Descent in the team fights, right? Like, you just pop in, like, there's so much going on, right? You got the Nightmaric spawn, you got the Dominator's Descent, and I think one of the biggest factors about the Zask in a team fight was, you know, the continuous damage. That's why it's really good when it comes to, you know, the team fights, and mostly all of the time the Zask is always on the ban list, Naisu. And of course, none other than Honeymoonies is going to be rocking that Zas with a 717 going in for pure magic damage. And I think, even with the Radiant Armors, it still pierced through. Like, getting into Divine Glaive was kind of like the nail in the coffin here for
Yeah.
Honeymoon when it came to the team fights. He was also very sustainable, right? So he only got taken down once. So with the Dominator's Descent, it's pretty much like, I would say it's like a Lilia. You can kind of regen back your HP, just click that ultimate, and you're all okay.
Yeah, great performance from Honeymoon. I mean, that Zask has been a go-to pick for a lot of teams, not just here in the American qualifiers, but just like overall in the competitive scene, because of how much of a nuisance it is early to even late game. Like, just the fact of, like, if we even took the damage out of the equation, the fact that the slow and you have that stun is so devastating for some teams on how they want to fight. So great usage there. We'll see if it's banned out in the next game, but we are going to be taking a short break, about 5 minutes, while the teams get situated for game number 2. So sit tight. We'll be back after this. All right, welcome back after the short break. Once again, I'm Nice, who joined here with Burger Kim, and we are in the last match of the day. It's playoffs day here for the American Regional Qualifiers Road to WEC, and it is currently match point now for Guatemala against Ecuador. We've seen some great things, of course, already, and I would say definitely the lineup so far from what we've seen and the compositions that we've seen Guatemala bring to the table have worked wonders. I'm wondering if almost like the lucky hero for this lineup might be I don't know if it's going to be the Benedetta or maybe it's the Julian. Maybe I was actually okay.
Yeah.
It's either the Julian or the Benedetta here.
Yeah, they were also given the Zask, right? Like, I think it's also too much to give. Mirko and I were talking about what's too expensive to give. One is a chip, sometimes it's Juicin, but I think in this case, you can really feel the Zask. Even with like all of the Radiant Armors, like we were talking about, like Magic Damage, maybe it can be countered out with the Athena Shield, the Radiant Armors. Boy, that Zask, way too much to deal with, and Ecuador now going to be finally respecting that. I'm actually surprised that it came through for game number 1. It was actually picked up like the 4th pick for this side of Guatemala. So this time Ecuador going to take that away. Assassins are still up for the taking. Guatemala taking out their Ruby. So does this kind of signal that they want to go for the Roger first pick? Because usually that is the counter for the Roger.
I guess so. At this point, I'm wondering too if either of the teams still want to ban out some of the assassins just to cover those bases, because Ling has been pretty dominant so far. Maybe that's also the play, because again with Guatemala we don't know, because just recently, like I said, Cholo does like to go in the jungle with certain heroes, and then sometimes they switch it up, where I believe it was Rios Monte that did what is that kind of dynamic with them. But honestly, Rios Monte could actually just end up picking Benedetta if it's left open again, and play that in wherever he wants, and I guess there's a lot of this respect bans coming out from the Fanny, because the Fanny was banned in the previous game too. And so, obviously, like I said, if Fanny is being banned out, that's like a pure sign that, all right, their junglers, whichever it may be, but most likely Cholo, is great at assassins. So part of the play might just be, all right, let's get the Ling. Roger could still be open, and then we flex it. So I think that's what Guatemala might be eyeing here, especially if they want to go ahead, go for a sweep. But they're actually the ones to ban out the Roger. So interesting.
Okay, so they're forcing Ecuador here to either ban away the Ling. Does this kind of like signal that they want to go for, again, Rios Mont in the jungle? But then again, like what I mentioned earlier, Rios Mont is that kind of person that is just much better on the side lanes. The Link's gonna get taken out. So Cholo 97, if they go for the Julian here, this means that they're gonna go with the same.
Jushin.
Yeah, it's also open, and the chip is also open. So there's a lot to take in here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for Guatemala, I think just take the Julian. It might be probably the safest.
Oh, no.
But wow, they go Hayabusa.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Hayabusa
Rios
is the first
Mont?
pick.
Is it a Rios Mont hero? Because based on what we've seen, right? Like Guatemala has picked up this Hayabusa once in the previous series, the first series that we have for the day, and it was Rios Mont. That actually pick it up. So does that mean Cholo gonna go to the XP? Zayt on the gold. So again, that's the beauty of Guatemala's lineup here. They can really be so flexible. But Ecuador right now, they got a couple of power picks up. Chip, Zeusin, that they can go for here. And of course,
Definitely the Jushin, yeah. Do they want to take the... I mean, Minotaur 2 has been doing pretty well.
oh,
But for the
okay.
Rome, Ecuador is going to go with the Matilda. Again, this is a hero that they've brought to the table before. And for me, it's almost a 50-50. But just with these two heroes, the Matilda and the Jushin, that's a whole lot of utility. You know, that's one thing that really sticks
Yeah.
out is they have a lot of this utility that they can use. I just think maybe this also helps a little bit because like I was saying in the team fights with Jushin, unfortunately, like she provides a lot of utility, but also depending on the build path, you don't have a ton of damage. And I know there's a little bit that we talked about with Matilda. The poke that she can provide with the wisps are good. I'm just not sure exactly how those will end up working out because, yeah, Guatemala is going to pick up the Harith. That's also open. Edith has been a mainstay for a lot of teams as well, either parked as a roam or an XP lane. And what's funny is like, even though like what makes Edith so good is her low cooldowns to set things up with the Earth Shadow Onward
Yeah.
combination. But then she does like unreal damage when she pops primal form, right? The primal
It's
wrath.
unfair.
She's just like, yeah, it's insane because you have a Harith. So I think their damage already is pretty good from Guatemala. We'll see exactly what they want to put though in the mid lane
Yeah.
later on once we get to that second phase. But for Ecuador, this next pick, are they going to secure themselves their gold lane? Moskov Claude already open.
Oh,
Wow.
utility.
This is
Wow,
like a
this is-
throwback here. Fred Matilda.
Yeah, except for the Zushin that just came out, right? This is pretty
Yeah.
much like, wow, I would even say like patches ago. This really reminds me a lot of Blacklist International
Yeah.
when they played with, yeah, the royal duo, Venus and Wise. This was a combination that they loved going for. The Matilda, I understand because of I would say the Hayabusa, just to add up a little bit of that shield to give to your team. So it's utility after utility, and Guatemala is just pure damage here right now. So looking at the bats, they're gonna go away and take out the Faramis here that can really sustain the team fights. And as for Guatemala, they can go ahead and ban away some of the gold laners here. Based on the stats, Rosa on the Claude, somebody that can go in and out of the team fights, somebody that can probably give the Harith a hard time in the lane, and even the side lanes. They can take out Lucas's Terizla is out also.
Wonder if they're still gonna double down on it. Maybe take out the Yu Zhong.
Oh
I
yeah.
know Lucas has played that as well. And if they do that, then yeah, I'm kind of wondering what Lucas will play, at least for that. But so far, yeah, I mean the Fredrin versus Hayabusa. It's a little worrying, because just keeping up with the Hayabusa, I think, is a big thing. But
Yeah.
you could you're tanky enough to still deal with the assassins. I would say it's just like Fredrin is very niche right now. It's not to the point where like utility junglers don't work. Fredrin does still find success usually. You just have to build around it, and I think that's exactly what Ecuador is doing here. Because next is going to probably be their gold lane pick. The Moskov was taken out.
Oh.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, it was the
Yuzhong.
Yuzhong I mentioned earlier. They locked that in. So this is, almost like the way that I look at this, aside from the Jushin pick, this is a very standard, almost old meta that we're seeing here from Ecuador.
Yeah, throwback. Is it even Thursday right now? Yeah. Well,
It's
throwback.
not, what day is today?
Way back.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Oh, it's not
Tuesday.
even. Yeah.
Throwback Tuesday.
Throwback
We can
Tuesday.
say.
Not bad.
There you go.
That could work. That could work. But Guatemala, yeah, doubling down on their lineup as well. Having that good wave clear in the mid, I would say very good early game as well with the Lilia. Now they need someone to kind of front for them apart from the Edith. Not unless it's going to be a roam here. That does actually happen. So the Minotaur's already out. Are they going to go for something like a Tigreal? CC here to kind of go with the lineup here of
Wow.
Guatemala. They lock in the Carmilla and
Beatrix.
wow, a Beatrix for
This
the
is a
gold lane.
throwback.
Yeah, super throwback for Ecuador. Throwback Tuesday. But for Guatemala, personally loving it because Again, you're working with the new patch, and at the same time, you got the CC here, a couple of underrated heroes that have kind of gone under the radar for quite some time, and I think I can see this actually working out for Guatemala. Again, if the communication is right, if the layering of skills are right here for their side.
I know you're loving the Carmilla pick, Kim.
For sure.
So that's there, and I think now I don't know the win rate so far of Carmilla, at least here for the American Regional Qualifiers, but I don't think it's that good, and I feel like teams have just been kind of struggling a little bit to make it work. With this lineup, though, I think even if you have a tough game, just enough dropping the Curse of Blood, like with the lineup that they have, a Harith, a Lilia, is already going to help them a lot, right? Like that is going to be quite devastating in terms of damage spread out if you can get multiple people with the Curse of Blood. So that might be the job. Plus, you got that stun that you can use. So yeah, it is. This time around, it's Rios Montt on the jungle.
Yeah.
So they did what we were kind of expecting, right? They did do the little switch that we talked about earlier today. Is this an early kill for them? Kahil?
Oh, wow, that's a lot of pokes, and that's what you get with the Carmilla, right? A very good early game. You pair it up with the Lilia that can clear, that can poke up against the enemy, actually forcing Kahil to go all the way back to the base. Looking at this, no first blood just yet, but yeah, the pokes are definitely there. Ecuador's playing with utility right now, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully it can keep up with the new patch that we have here that Guatemala's rocking.
See if they can. At the same time, too, the fact that Cholo is going to be this time around the Roam Edith. I feel like, or no, sorry, he's actually in the XP lane, right? XP lane,
yeah.
Edith. He's going to have to kind of plant himself here for a while. Should be fine. Oh no!
Nope.
Wow.
That was a yep, Lantern Flare. I mean, that's a very powerful skill coming out from the Zeusin. Very great way to engage, and fortunately for Cholo, no level 4 just yet, so the Primal Rat couldn't be used up. So Ecuador this time starting it up real strong there in the XP, which kind of means that they kind of want to have that power position as well when it comes to taking in the turtle by kind of bullying and making sure that Cholo 97 is put into his place. And so far you can see 3-man rotation down bot.
Yeah, they want to start with the lead they've already built here for Ecuador. Once again, eyes set on getting to game number 3. But neither team committing to it just yet. Now Nikolai has the beacon. It's at level 4. Turtle's still going to be not paid attention to while they go ahead and grab their buffs for both junglers. Rios Montt, this is where, he actually used the Retribution for this.
Okay. Oh, does not get enough damage to take down Kahil. Really, the answer for Ecuador here on the Matilda to provide the shields, giving Ecuador actually a much better position here in the turtle. Look at the zoning out here by Nikolai. That's a mid laner that you're talking about, and Sub as well, unable to go in. It's gonna be Ecuador picking up the turtle for this game.
Yeah, I'm unfortunate for Rios Montt because he used his Retribution earlier to, I think, secure the buff, use the shadow kill, and then just got beaconed. Like, that's exactly what Nikolai did, and knowing that those were down, and now he's gonna struggle for the purple.
Oh no, yeah, we're gonna be forcing the Retribution out. Kahil as well in Einer. I think it's gonna be a Retribution battle. It's still gonna be Rios Montt, yeah. So that should be good. I mean, the pressure is definitely there, but with this being said, the rotation over to the blue buff here, Zayd's gonna get pressured here though.
Yeah, he's gonna get pressured. Stuff. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, Gaiden went out. Wow, nice one.
All right. Well, for Guatemala, as long as they can take care of Ziet on this Harith, that's going to be a key thing for them. Look at this. Cholo could be in trouble.
Oh no. Flicker out for Cholo and popping in the Primal Rat, but with so much utility in AoE, Lucas goes in for the Furious Dive and picks up the kill. And now Honeymoon and the rest of the gang, are they going to be able to make it? Black Shoes has been popped here. Lucas taken down real low, is able to stay for a bit. A double kill for Lucas for the price of 1. Guatemala claps back, but the pressure is here on the lane. That's going to be a Circling Eagle onto Kahil and Nikolai onto the backside, getting the Lantern Flare up, goes all the way back in for Rios Montt. Giving me a heart attack there, but Ecuador.
Pressure. Man, they really want to keep him here. I don't know if they can actually get anything more from that, but there's a whole lot of value coming out from this lineup from Ecuador. That's what's happening. And you're really seeing that. And this is what I was saying. You know, at one point, Einar doesn't even need to really be in a lot of these fights. Like, he can just do his thing, farm up, you know, get what he needs to. Now the attention here on top.
Vengeance has been popped here by Sub. Okay, gonna be able to reflect back the damage. But look at this. Wow, Ecuador just making sure that they're kept at bay, kept under their own turret here. Turtle is up, and Einar again have the power position there. Sub isn't even able to go in, as Riosmon hasn't even gotten the purple wit, which is really crucial for Hayabusa. And with that being said, right after the turtle, that's gonna be Ecuador picking it up. A lot of pressure onto the purple, but look at that. Crimson Beacon is up. Einar gonna be soaking up the damage. That's gonna be a double kill finally picked up there by Riosmon, using their retribution up, taking down 3 members. And that's where it starts to turn, the tides start to turn here for Guatemala.
That's exactly what you want to happen. You know, for Rios Montt struggling the past couple minutes, he's also going to get a purple buff, taking it from Ecuador. See the attention here on Rosa now. So, you know, if at one point you're looking for the great time to shadow kill, use that up, that was that. And the setup potential too, like I was saying, is great, especially with an Edith and the curse of blood from this Carmilla. Yeah, okay, Cahill's going to be fine again with this, but you know, that's the thing. You got to be able to find moments like that for Guatemala, and still they're working against a deficit. You know, Ecuador had a great start to the game, so they're still holding on to a lead. Sub's going to get dragged around.
Oh no, yep, the Vengeance is up. Not even enough time to pop in the Curse of Blood, and now we see Ecuador just poking the heck out of Guatemala here, but they have the Great Wave here, so they're able to clear that out. Riosmont in and out here, not gonna go for more, but the pressure is being made here up top. I believe they should be able to get this turret tier 3 up top. That's gonna be cleared out as Ecuador finally converts to their first turret take.
This is always the question when there's Jushin across from you. It's like, how do you play against the flare? You know, how do you make sure that you don't get continuously dragged, especially when you don't have, for example, like Sub, but Carmilla, you don't really have that many tools to run away from that flare. You know what I mean? Like, it, especially because you're rocking Vengeance. You have your little speed boost, and that's about it. Look at this, Cholo's gonna be focused.
Oh wow, look at the damage coming out from Rosa, and even with the Primal Rat under their own turret, he's gonna get taken down. But I think for Guatemala, they're gonna look to convert up top. Einar all alone there. Oogie shadow kill, shadow in and out for Riosmont. They should be able to get the power position this time right after that turret takedown by Ecuador down bot. The Einer's there and able to steal the turtle away from Riosmont. Now he's gonna be able to run away from all of that, as Lucas is gonna go in for the Furious Dive, go all the way back in for Riosmont. Sub again getting taken down there. And honestly, it's really hard for the Carmilla to position as well. As much as I like her, there's so much taunts here. There's so much utility that, you know, you're very ultimate dependent, right? So you've got to lay down that Curse of Blood nicely into like at least 3 or 4 members. But right after that, if there's no follow-up, it's going to be really tough.
I can't believe that Einar just pulled that off too. Like, literally, that was Grand Theft Turtle. Like, he just walked up, and this is, I don't know what it is about Fredrin. I don't know if Fredrin gives like an extra passive to just kind of walk up to things and retribution them away and then, you know, walk out unscathed, because it happens so often whenever it is a Fredrin. I mean, even back, you know, throwing it back to the old meta, that happens so often. And how does it happen to Riosmont? You know, I don't know exactly what the play was there, because they lost that turret too on the bottom side when Cholo was just, you know, targeted and sandwiched in. And look at this, Riosmont now gonna have to work for his purple. Did he get it?
Okay. No. Oh, it actually went to the... Oh no, Sub again! Gonna get bursted down there by Ecuador. And now the Black Dragon form comes through here for Lucas. Gonna try to find somebody. Everybody's gonna be backing away now. A lot of siege potential here for the side of Ecuador. Einar gonna be able to soak up the damage here onto Cholo. Gets the Crimson Beacon up. Lucas dives in with a Furious Dive. Zayt gonna get taken down there as Cholo 97 again falling down low. Will they get the kill? It is going to be 2 for the price of 1. Only Lucas falls.
Huh, I don't know. I know you're a fan of the Carmilla, but yeah, this one's difficult to see. I don't know, Sub, you know, I think he thinks he's a little tankier than he is. You know, entering some of these 1v3s, 1v4s, and then relying on the Vengeance, but you just don't have the items you need right now to be that tanky. And even so, you're kind of split off from the team. I just feel like there's a little disconnect here on what they want to do with the Carmilla, what they want to do when you're playing completely around the Curse of Blood, by the way. You know, like that's pretty much all you can do with the Carmilla and make it work for this lineup. So you're going to get dragged here. Sub's in trouble again.
Oh no, the Vengeance, there's the Curse of Blood, but it's gonna link down the members and no follow-up. Once again, the disconnect is there, like what you mentioned, but he was able to lay down a nice Curse of Blood. But again, Carmilla, it's all about having that right follow-up after you land in a very good ultimate. And again, the depth of Sub didn't really matter here. Ecuador gonna be able to get in the first Lord of the game, although Guatemala... Again, it's a struggle here. They're playing with the previous meta. And like what I mentioned, Rios Montt is, I don't know, for some reason, whenever this Hayabusa is picked up or whenever he's in the jungle, it seems to yield different results, right? Like maybe I think it's just the overall dynamic with this switch up. But again, you know, they've already won in game number 1. Looking at the lineup here, I would still say that Ecuador has a much better late game, much better scaling. Of course, with the Beatrix here of Rosa that you've seen instantly burst down the tankiest member here of Guatemala, which is Sub. And now the Lord marching down mid, circling Eagle here by Cahill. Gets bursted down there. Curse of Blood onto 1. But at least they got the roamer. And now Rios Montt gonna go in for the Oogie Shadow kill. Rosa gonna get taken down real low. Not enough to take him down. They still have the Lord to burst down. They should be able to take down this one easily with the amount of wave clear and burst that they have. They successfully defend here, but it's only the inhibitors left.
Okay, again, they're making moves. The damage is there, especially from Rios Montt, but
Wow. That's a Vengeance coming out from Nikolai Zayt. Forced to back away from that one-liner. Super tanky here. And with Cholo! Oh no! Gets bursted down after he pops in the Primal Rat. Definitely not a good game for Cholo here. 0-4-1 on the Eat It. Every time, like, there's the Primal Rat that is available, either the Vengeance gets popped or he gets bursted down either here by Rosa or gets taunted by Einar.
this is what this is showing is some of the downside of having a magic-based gold lane in Harith, because if the Zaman Force isn't available, it's really hard to fight in comparison. Oh, hold on again.
Oh dear. Oogie Shadow kill. Everybody groups up and they're able to sustain, which I did mention earlier, the reason why they picked up this Matilda, just to have that extra shield. And now you can see there's that struggle for Rios Montt. He has the damage, but it's not enough to burst down the lineup here of Ecuador. They got the shields, they got the sustainability here of Einar, so it's not going to be easy to burst down. I guess, the best one to burst down is Rosa, by the way, who hasn't suffered a single casualty in this game. 4-0-2 on the Beatrix and just hit that level 15 mark.
Yeah, Rosa's very well protected, I'd say, and that's been the case for a lot of the games that Ecuador has played.
Oh, wow!
Wow, look at the damage too. That's going to happen with the Renner, of course. Yeah. But that's the thing. So, if you're really looking at what Guatemala can do to turn things around, they're down almost 10,000 gold. But you can see that they have some fighting prowess. Like, when it comes to the damage potential, it's there. But I feel like there's just this hesitation because of the fact that what I was saying earlier, they don't have this traditional marksman gold lane, right? So it's a little bit difficult to make things work because you have to rely on your front line to initiate for you, but at the same time, make sure that you're covered on the backside, because Lucas can come in with that dragon form and cut things off. But that's the case. Ecuador is going to get this Lord pretty much freely, and now they have to go ahead and get on the defense. There was a Holy Crystal picked up by Zayt just recently. Yeah. So they might stand a good chance to actually defend against this Lord too. Their wave clear is good, especially with Lilia. So at this point, it's mostly how do they play around this defense? Well, they're gonna have to clear the waves pretty well while hopefully able to fight too. And I think this is where, if it's any Curse of Blood to work, this is where it has to happen. It has to happen in the base. It's a lot easier to set things up. So hopefully Sub can make that happen. Because now Lord's up top side. Ecuador making their eyes on this mid lane, possibly to push it in.
Wow, Sub again forced to pop in the Vengeance really early. Gets taken in by the Flare. Curse of Blood onto 2 members, but there's no follow-up once again. Gets instantly bursted down there by the Fred and Honeymoon. Black Shoes all the way back, and Lucas goes in for the Furious Dive. I think we might just have a game number 3. It's gonna be a wipeout for the side of Guatemala. Ecuador equalizes the series 1-1.
Well, we came into this thinking we would see 3 games. Again, it's Guatemala, right? And they had the 3 games earlier on, and they get 3 games here against Ecuador. And this time around, Ecuador, they weren't joking around. I don't think they were joking around in the previous game either. But this one, they came in seriously with a game plan. They executed it very well, and they knew how to punish. I think that's the main thing. And once we take a look at the highlights too in just a second, that's what we're going to have to pay attention to, because Ecuador, with their lineup, they knew exactly how to punish this. It was a little bit of a mix of new meta slash old meta, throwing it back with some of these picks. This was great too, because you get to see this, especially early on, some of the decisions that they made utilizing the Jushin pick, and why it is still a mainstay for a lot of the teams that see it open. Because you can be really dominant with the utility this provides you. How many times do you see her pop the beacon, use the flares to drag back members? This was the one good setup that we got to see here from Guatemala, and they just couldn't replicate this later on in the game. They continue to get picked off, and a lot of times, honestly, it was Sub. Sub was getting picked off time and time again. I just felt like maybe he thought he was tankier than he was, and that was a big part of it, because a lot of times you get picked off, you're down. I mean, here it is again. Most of these highlights are Ecuador picking out Sub and getting rid of it, So, and once again, I think the Harith is usually a good pick, but you lack this traditional marksman, and it shows here in these team fights.
Yeah, a lot of people are arguing, like, is the marksman good, or is it going to be the mage that is much better in the lane? But yeah, you're right about Sub here. Most of the time, I wouldn't say picked off, I would say picked up at this point most of the time by the lantern flare of the Zushin, which is really hard, right? Like, he gets to lay down this Curse of Blood, but I completely forgot that there's a Matilda in this lineup, which is something that I've personally gone up against. So it's really hard. It's so much mobile, and once you land the Curse of Blood, even though as good as it is, if you get the Guiding Wind out for the team, it can really evade that one good setup that is laid down here by Sub. But it's going to be a match point for both teams here for the next game, 14-minute mark, which is still kind of like a huge question mark to me, like why they kind of switched the lineup, right? Like maybe they were trying to say, oh yeah, maybe we can make the Hayabusa work this time, first pick it. But I think for Ecuador, they're very much prepared for this game, and a lot of people are saying that, oh, the tank meta's gone, utility's gone, but this is one of the games that it just proved that utility can work sometimes. You just kind of have to work around that lineup, and Ecuador was able to do exactly that in this match.
Yeah, they did this before too, and I remember asking the same thing. When Rios Montt went in the jungle, they lost. And so, I don't know, maybe again, it just comes down to them experimenting a little bit. Also, just the fact that, some of these heroes are left open. So maybe they want to try that with a different game plan. So it leaves the question of where do they go for game 3, right? But looking at the match MVP here, or for this game, I should say, for this one, it's Rosa, 7-0-3, did not go down at all, pumped out the damage, and this is also on throwback pick. You don't see Beatrix pop up too often anymore. I would say it's almost niche for a lot of the teams that like to still play it, make it work. But this time around, Rosa has been a standout for this squad from Ecuador all throughout the tournament. Actually, every single time, it's usually Rosa that is able to, find moments, whether it's the Natan, whether it's a Beatrix. Like, think about it. Like, Rosa is playing these picks that are not typically picked up and not dying and making them work. That says a lot about Rosa and his mechanics, I would say. And the team does a really good job at actually protecting Rosa. And I think that's like I said, I remember saying this before we even went to game 1 when we were introducing the rosters. I was like, they gotta have an answer for Rosa. So we'll see if they do that. Again, we're gonna take a short break, about 5 minutes, for the teams to get ready for their last game here in this best of 3, because it's down to 1 game. Sit tight, we'll be back after this. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. We're down to 1 final game to finish off our day here. Once again, I'm Nice, who joined here with Burger Kim. And is it going to be Ecuador, or will it be Guatemala? Because that's the question, as both these teams have brought great things to the table all throughout the day, but it comes down to one game for them to go ahead and move forward, of course, as we are in the playoffs here for the American Regional Qualifiers, the road to WEC, and that is what the eyes are set on, of course, as, you know, we still have more games, of course, happening tomorrow, but it's come down to this for Kim. How we feeling? We've seen lots of different strategies, and I know we already talked a little bit about this leading into the break, but I would say if it's gonna be Guatemala, do we just say equally, like, go back to what they did in game one? Like, let that be the roles, let that be the placement. Do you think that's the right move for them?
Hopefully, right? Like, I don't think they find so much success rate with Rios Montt in the jungle, right? I think they were being, I would say, like, kind of trying to abuse that assassin meta, right? Like putting Rios Montt on the jungle on the Hayabusa,
Yeah.
0% success rate. So I think they should, you know, probably stick to like the basics. They found more win rate, I would say, when they are on the red side. Yeah, pretty much like Mexico, like what Mirko was saying. So that could also play in a factor. I'm actually really surprised with the turnout as well for the second game, where, you know, a throwback lineup like the Fredrin, the Matilda, the
Yeah, it was
Yuzong, and even
very
the
throwback.
Beatrix. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it works here, especially under the hands of Ecuador, and to think that they've kind of executed that lineup up against a lineup that is, I would say, very much favored in this current patch. You got the assassins, you got the burst mages, so I think it's a good shakeup. But I think for Guatemala, they have to pull off what they did in game number one. Maybe just go back, stick to the basics. Cholo 97 back in the jungle. I don't think he's that effective, I would say, in the XP lane. He's more of like a jungler type of guy.
Yeah, I think so. So I think you go back to that. I agree with you. And I don't know. We could also, it could, part of it could just be maybe there's some limit to like the hero pools with the
Oh, yeah.
decision here, or like, you know, again, that's stuff we don't know because as we came into the qualifier here, like this is our first time seeing, you know, some of these players, some of these teams. But at this point, like so far, because of what we've been able to cast and watch them for Guatemala, it's like, yeah, go back to what they did in game one. I think that works best. If that means getting the Benedetta too and giving that to Rios Montt and let him do his thing, you know, whether he's in the gold lane or the XP lane, because we've seen him do both, then that's fine, right? But I think at the same time, we have to talk about the fact that whoever wins this best of one will be playing against the United States tomorrow.
Oh,
So
that is big. That is big. They haven't dropped a single game here in the Americas Regional Qualifiers, and to go up
Yeah.
against that team, well, they better be prepared. Either Guatemala, Ecuador, they better bring
Yep.
it. But they have to go through this matchup first. I think we're gonna be closing off the day, opening the day with a best of three, a solid like best of three, which means that we got all three
Full circle.
matches here. Gotta have to like throw everything out here for both sides, because we're talking about the reset once again here in this game. I mean, doesn't matter what you did in game number one,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you did in game number two. It all boils down to this last matchup. So hopefully for Guatemala, maybe try to go back to what they did game number one, go with their original lineup, which I feel like has more synergy, has better dynamics when it comes to like overall gameplay.
yeah, we'll see what happens. Because either way, you know, opponent-wise, United States, like I think what both these teams have showed us, at least today, is that, you know, they have their own play style and everything, I think, but both Ecuador and Guatemala have shown us some mistakes that need to be fixed, right? Because, and that's where you do it. Now that you're in this best of three, you fix these mistakes here, you work on that communication. They both have showed good communication in cases, but again, like for example, when we saw Sub continuously cut off from the team, you know, the same can be said on the other side, where like there's some decision making that happens here where they will get punished and usually the team comes on through. But that's the stuff that they have to also fix before tomorrow against whoever is going to win this,
Yeah.
going against the United States. Because again, if you guys missed it, you know, just go back and look at some of the clips from the United States, their games, what they do. I think again, knowing, I believe earlier on too, United States swept Mexico, I believe, and
Yeah.
Mexico is playing against
2-0.
Colombia tomorrow. Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening here. But we are going to be in this draft, this last one of the series. So Ecuador is going to be the first pick.
Mm-hmm.
Priority wise, Jushin is not available. So
Okay,
Roger's
the
probably the
Roger.
next go. There it is. Roger gets picked up. Now on the flip side, you still have a Trizla available
Mm-hmm.
for this. Again, the Benedetta. We've seen them even pull out the Hylas. Like with Guatemala, I'm just not sure. I don't know what to call.
Oh wow.
Is this going to be
Okay.
Rios Montt again? Hylos is brought out, like I was
Uh-huh.
mentioning. But
It's a
is
different
this
player though.
actually? Yeah, it's Vulture. It's Vulture.
Vulture. Yeah, instead of
So they brought Vulture in.
Cholo
Cholo 97.
97. So I think they're also gonna bring a sub player in here for Vulture instead of Cholo 97, since they're gonna be working around this Hayabusa lineup that again does not have a very good success rate here for
Yeah.
Guatemala, but they're gonna try to pull it off here once again for the match point. They got the high loss still unconfirmed if this is an XP lane or a roamer, but most of the time here in the qualifiers, it is going to be going to the XP lane as Ecuador gonna lock in the Xborg, which leaves me wondering if this is gonna be XP or is it gonna be the jungle, because we've actually seen that had a high success rate, but I think it's a
Yeah.
great answer. If ever it's gonna be the XP lane, you're gonna go up against the high loss true damage coming out from the Xborg. I say it good answer for coming out from Ecuador.
Okay. Ecuador. Yeah, I like what they have here. Xborg has been banned out quite a bit too. You know, that's something that teams have done because I mean, they don't want to deal with the pressure that comes from the last Insanity, and then you have a Matilda. And like you mentioned, the Matilda was actually quite valuable the previous game that you got to see because of just the fact that the shields alone, plus when it's an early Flask of the Oasis, ends up helping out quite a bit. And this makes a Roger even more mobile. Like he's already mobile enough.
Yeah.
You throw a
Mhm.
Matilda on that lineup, and he's flying around
Super
too.
mobile. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
Mobile Legends after all, so you gotta be mobile.
yeah. What is? It's true. What is this last? Oh, Kufra.
Oh,
Okay,
oh, beefing up the
Kufra on a
lineup here.
Hylos.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay. So this means it's definitely an high loss XP lane if this is gonna be the pick of I guess the Kufra with the
Kim
bouncing
with
ball.
Guatemala. I don't know. Because
Oh yeah.
they have done so many different things.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Prepared.
let's just assume. Let's just assume it is. Maybe it's going to be the XP lane Hylos. Now, weren't they the ones that did this too? Also, didn't they do an XP lane Hylos?
Yeah,
I
they
know
did,
one of the
but
teams did.
I think it's a them. But it was Cholo 97 that had it. I don't think he's that comfortable either playing
Yeah.
on a very aggressive XP laner, so they put Vulture in this time. Not so sure if this is going to be either a signature pick or what, because they've prioritized it for the most part in this draft. You got a Kufra here as well. I mean, I don't know. Kufra lane XP lane Kufra, Guatemala. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I think they're gonna go for a little bit more standard this time, definitely, because you're talking about match point once again. They're now taking away the mid laner options here for Guatemala. The Zas is already out, so somebody to go alongside the Matilda. Earlier, Ecuador went with the Lilia, if I'm not mistaken. That also has
Yep.
very great wave clear. I would say it's good up against the Kufra and the Hylos as well. The poke capability is there, so that is something that Guatemala should also consider. But also Rosa's heroes. But then again, Flex, Rogers, so they really don't know where this is gonna go for now.
Okay, and as we wait for these last bans to come out, gold lane. I mean, even regardless of, let's just say it is a jungle Roger. Like, what do you want to put in the gold lane here? Claude's still available. The Moskov. This could just end
Yeah.
up being a classic matchup in terms of the gold lane marksman. But at the same time, Guatemala has brought some very interesting picks to gold lane, so we can't count that out yet. They banned out the Akai. Just in case, I guess, to cover their grounds, because they're really rolling with a lot of tankiness and durability. Whereas on the other side, you have just this movement-based, I would say, like a movement-based lineup from Ecuador here. So last ban, what do they want to focus on? What are they narrowing
Gold?
down? Still the gold lane option, I
Mid?
guess, because they took the Harith out. Mid, they could. I mean, Valentina is
Valentina,
banned
yeah.
out. No, Valentina's banned.
Oh.
Okay, it's Moskov.
Gold lane.
All right, Moskov. Yeah. So Claude, maybe do they actually go there? Does Guatemala want a Claude
Zayd
here? Or are
even
they thinking
comfortable with
something
that?
else? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to be the case here.
Yeah, they have to play with comfort here right now for Guatemala. They can go ahead and pick up the Claude, but again, if you're not comfortable with it, it's not going to yield the results that you want. It's definitely good up against it's a good tank killer here. Good peel for the
Yeah.
shields coming out from Guatemala, that I would say. But if you're not comfortable, maybe just stick to the basics here for Guatemala. They continue to surprise us with uncontemporary drafts. We've seen a Benedetta on the gold lane. They lock in the Faramis here first, which kind of like, does it signal that they want to go for all-out team fights? Because this is looking to be a very scary dive setup here for Guatemala. You got the Kufra, you got the Glorious Pathway from the Hylos, and to
Yeah.
add it all up, you got the Faramis to sustain. So with the Roamer being the Matilda here, I think it really enabled them to just, let's go ahead and pick up the Faramis. There's no really hard CC except for the X-Board.
Yeah, the Faramis just kind of adds that extra layer. I think that they need, especially playing into an X-Borg.
Oh, no.
Oh, the Sicilian. Time and time again, it's popped up. And we've seen what this damage can do with bad impacts, getting the stacks here, especially late in the game. What else do they want to pick up? Nuzhong?
Oh.
Okay. They have a whole... No, they got a... I don't know. They got an eagle, a dragon, and a bat, basically. And a lichen. So, interesting. Lunox, too. Last pick here for
Gold lane?
Guatemala.
Okay, gold lane to go up against the... Okay, so it's a gold lane Roger in here for Ecuador. You got Rosa on that, and it's gonna be, yeah, an X-Borg jungle here for Ecuador.
And is this actually a... If this doesn't switch, is this actually INR going in the jungle, or did they do a switch? Because I think Ecuador has switched roles before in the past, too. So, because, you know, the X-Borg is above INR. INR's been their jungle, but I don't think they're going to do an X-Borg jungle. So maybe they did a role swap, and we have a player swap over on the other side from Guatemala.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things kind of changing here for what comes down to basically this last game. It's come to a best of one, and you know, just again to remind the viewers, they're gonna have to face United States tomorrow. Whoever wins this, whether it's gonna be Ecuador or Guatemala. So, yep, Rios Montt, like we were mentioning, is going to go ahead and just roll with this once again. And it is a jungle X-Borg from INR. Okay, this is interesting. It's been a while since we've seen this. Actually, I can't even recall the last time I saw X-Borg in the jungle. Maybe just from a previous professional league. But I don't know. How do you feel about this? He's also running Brave Smite.
Oh, actually, I did cast a game with an X-Borg jungle. Like I have to pull up my notes, like which team that was, but definitely in the group stage with Mirko, and it had a very good, well, it had so far 100% win rate on the X-Borg here. I would say it's good, especially with the Faramis over on the other side, right? Like you pop in the last Insanity at the right time, you can really take down the team here of Guatemala, and has a good amount of sustain, I would say. Especially if you're going up against a Hayabusa here that can really dish out the damage. Looking at this, I like the lineup here of Ecuador a little bit more, knowing that they can scale pretty well. And gold lane matchup though, Rosa and Zayt. So I think the Lunox can definitely bully the Roger here, but with the aid here of Einar, not gonna be that easy to take that down. But the last Insanity has been used.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Up top, though, 2v1 situation, and that's going to be Guatemala drawing in the first blood.
First blood for them. That's a great start. Rios Montt, again, he kind of had some troubles early game in the previous one.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you pick up this Hayabusa, that's exactly what you want to go for. Makes things a little bit more difficult, I would say, even for INR. But, again, you can play around the fact that you just have this kind of extra health bar in a way through the Fraga armor and build into that because... You know, obviously, Rios Montt can't just tank the last Insanity up, you know? So he's going to have to rely on... and I guess that's why they also have the Netherrealm available to them through Honeymoon. So I'm just going to jump in.
Onto Lucas, though. But he has the Black Dragon form here. Vulture does not have that level 4 just yet. Circling Eagle. Rosa, though, going to get assassinated there on the gold lane. Lucas still goes in for the Furious Dive. Netherrealm has been used here as Cahill. Gonna be able to soak up the damage. Tries to go in with the Circling Eagle. Nikolai does not have that damage just yet. But that's gonna be Sub getting taken down while Einar gonna go in for the Retribution on the turtle. It's gonna be Ecuador picking it up.
Ecuador gets it. Cahill could be in trouble.
Yeah, taken down real low. And Rios Montt picks up the kill. 3 kills for the jungler here of Guatemala, and this is exactly what he wanted. I think
Yeah.
he heard me. He's like, not a good success rate on the Hayabusa. I'm gonna show you. 3 minutes.
I'll
That's
prove you
kill.
wrong, Kim.
Yeah, it's a kill per minute here for Riosmon, and I think he's making a statement. If he can keep this up, this should create a lot of pressure, especially on the late game scaling heroes. Nikolai, especially on the Cecilia, can definitely bully him this early on.
Yeah, great start. I mean, already, and this is the contrast. He actually goes the Sea Halbert first item too, to just deal with the fact that, yeah, there's some sustainability with that. Matilda, Honeymoon in trouble.
Oh, wow. Okay, not even popping in the Nether Realm there. That's a lot of pokes coming out from the Bats Impacts and the Bats Feast. Now, Sub, going to take a lot of the damage coming out here from Einar. 3-3 for both sides, but it's still going to be Ecuador, of course, leading in terms of the gold here because of the turtle take. They have to find a way to kind of shut down Rios mod if they don't want this to go like snowball for the Hayabusa.
Yeah, this is, I guess they're just going to trade buffs possibly here unless they can do something. Sub jumps in.
Oh, there's the Vulture with the Glorious Pathway there. Einar as well, going to be able to take away the purple buff, but you know what? Sub, or the rest of the team here of Guatemala got in that purple buff here as well. Last Insanity here being used. It's going to be Einar in the middle of everything. Rose is going to take down Sub, but it's going to be a clapback here from the Honeymoon. Riosmont trying to go in for the play. He's going to take down Lucas there as Zayt forced to flicker out to safety. 1 HP and the Bat Impacts comes through. That's going to be Ecuador. 5-5 is going to be our score. It's game number 3 that we're talking about, and I think it's a different story when you tell the players. It's game number 3. It's the last game to finally get in or the win for the series.
Yeah, it's like just watching the team fights unfold. Very interesting because it's so. It's not even messy. Like, it's just like this back and forth between both of them, and the fact that too with the lineup that they have, Riosmont being the most damage available right now, he's got to be very careful in his initiations, right? He's got to use those quad shadows to perfection nearly to make sure he doesn't get blasted by the lineup from Ecuador, because yeah, they are ahead. Even though he's 4-0-1, he still has to respect the fact that Ecuador far ahead in terms of gold means they have better items. Flash to the waist picked up. Conceal going to be used. They want to fight.
Okay, Kahil gonna take a lot of the damage. Forced to use the Circling Eagle, and Vulture drops in the Glorious Pathway here. There's still not enough damage here for Nikolai, so they're not gonna go for more. They also got the Nether Realm here to sustain the team fights with Riosmont as well, wrecking the Havoc here up against Ecuador. Up top though, Lucas and Vulture, he's gonna be able to sustain. Try to defend that tower, and it's still up with 1 HP. Even though there are 2 members going up against him. Looking at the damage dealt so far, it's actually going to be Einar as well as the Sicilian here of Nikolai that's dealing a lot of this damage up against the side of Guatemala. I'm actually going to be really scared for the side of Guatemala if this keeps up, if the game keeps on extending, right? The Sicilian going to continuously scale up, and speaking of, he's going to solo kill Honeymoon there. Last Insanity used into Glorious Pathway. Vulture going to be able to sustain a little bit, but not for long as Rosa goes in for the Lycan pounds. Down bot though, Lucas in trouble as the Ogi Shadow Kill used alongside the Order of Brilliance. That's going to be a Sky Piercer picked up as well here by Riosmont.
All right, take a breath, Kim. You know, there's a whole lot of action happening between both teams. They want to duke it out. They want to fight it out. Riosmont has those 4 kills. He's also built up the Sky Piercer, so that's going to help him out. Oh, no, this is he's in trouble unless Rosa chases.
Oh, he's going to get slowed down, but here comes the backup here. And they clap back. It's Kahil instead that gets taken down there by Guatemala. Bats Impact has been released here. Slows the members of Guatemala down. It's still going to be the turtle, the last turtle for the taking here for both sides. With 1 member down, though, Ecuador still has a much better position with all of the turrets that they've taken in. So mid tower's already gone here for Guatemala, so they can have a better, take on all of these neutral objectives.
This is the thing. Like, it's all great watching Riosmont, get these kills, convert a lot of this. Doesn't get the turtle that time around, but you already pointed it out. They don't have much space to work around with. They only have the 1 turret down that they just got on the bottom side. And Ecuador is playing with that advantage, and you kind of have to get to a point where for Guatemala, you're a minute and a half away from the Lord, you need to be able to make moves around the map. Well, how do you do that? You need to get some of these turrets down, put some pressure. But who is going to do that? Like, that's the question. You know, because of the fact that they brought the Lunox to the table. For example, you can't, you know, place a traditional marksman to push that in and hope to get some pressure on that side. Like, you're mainly relying on the fact that, you know, Zayat has to be part of this fight, because look at the damage too. Like, it's all in a Rios Montt. As soon as they lose Rios Montt, it drops severely, because Zayat is going to have a hard time, even though he's doing good damage, you know, 16,000. It's going to be very difficult for him to get into range on the right targets from Ecuador. So he almost is most likely just going to pop the Brilliance for safety and then have to retreat. So, you know, that's one of the big problems here, because we're talking about a range advantage for Ecuador as well. Like, just having a Sicilian alone gives you a massive advantage in terms of range. And that's what they're doing. That's why they're also making these plays now in the tier 2.
Vulture gonna soak up the damage here as a sub. Gonna go in for the play. Stuns in 2 members. This is the time to go here. Flicker out for Nikolai. NetherRealm to sustain all of the damage coming through. What is that damage coming out from the bat? Impact! It's way too much. Honeymoon's gonna pick up the kill. Lucas claps back. It is still gonna favor the side of Ecuador. They only took down Nikolai. Obviously, that does not have that much mobility apart from the flicker. Rios Montt is gonna try to save this tower. Circling Eagle comes in. Ogi Shadow kill onto Cahill. It's still unstoppable at this point. Rosa's also dealing a lot of the damage here, but that was overextension there coming out from the side of Ecuador.
Yeah, Guatemala. The best thing they do is keep Rios Montt alive, and that's, you know, as soon as you get shut down, that's a lot of gold go to the hands of Ecuador, and they're already ahead, you know, 3,000-4,000 gold at this point. So it gets a little more risky at this, you know, this stage of the game, especially now that the Lord is up here. Rios Montt, even with the lead he has to rely on, you know, even the NetherRealm. The NetherRealm timings they haven't been perfect. Like, they're there, but the last Insanity, again, this Xborg was answer to a lot of the times to a fair miss, and they got picked it up. Gonna fight.
Okay, Cahill gonna go in and use the Circling Eagle. NetherRealm in the nick of time to save the lives here of Guatemala right before the Lord. They get stunned down here, and again, Einer gonna try to go in with Cahill. You're gonna have all of those ins and outs of the team fight. Honeymoon's gonna go down. The last Insanity picks up double kill. Look at Lucas zoning down the back lines. He's able to try to take down, actually Sub is able to survive full members here for the side of Ecuador. Ogi Shadow kill here for Rios Montt. Gonna be able to soak up the damage here, care of the Matilda. But there's a shutdown that they were looking for. The Lycan pounce a little bit way too deep in there into the enemy jungle. Guatemala gonna be able to get in this Lord without any contest at all. Look at how fast they're chunking it down.
Yep, that's objective secured. A huge team fight for Ecuador too, and honestly, that was just a lot of mistakes from Guatemala for that team fight. I mean, even for the fact that, you know, they were waiting patiently. Again, they're the ones that started that fight. And then they had to use the NetherRealm early on. And you saw, too, Rios Montt waited patiently. And he tried to go for Nikolai, but Nikolai got the gust. He went forward. And then Rios Montt was cut off from the team because he went back to the Quad Shadow. And so it was just a mess of a team fight for Guatemala.
Wow.
And they got severely punished. I mean, look at this lead that you can see, even in the damage department. That's 41,000 damage already on Nikolai. The Sicilian's building up, but that's why this Xborg's so deadly. Look at the damage for this. Conceal play going to be used?
Oh wow, the glorious pathway. Circling Eager to end the NetherRealm to sustain all of the damage coming through, but it still keeps on going. Rosa goes in for the Lycan pounce. Honeymoon is down. They get stunned there. A double kill. Make that a triple for Rosa. As Rios Montt goes down, it is down to Sub to defend the base. I don't think he's able to do it. He can set things up here, but it is going to be Ecuador that pulls off the reverse sweep up against Guatemala.
Congratulations to Ecuador here. Reverse sweep secured for them. And they'll go forward facing off against a formidable opponent. Probably one of the favorites, of course, for the qualifier, the United States tomorrow. But man, Guatemala, good effort. But for some reason, it felt like just in game 3, they just ran out of steam. They didn't have what we saw from game 1. You know, I mean, I would even say to an extent in game 2, this game number three, it just looked disconnected, is the way that I would put it for Guatemala here, because the mistakes. It was great again, great great start for Rios Montt. You have a hell of a game on a Hayabusa, but at the end of the day, it's a team game, and even with that kind of lead, you can't just hope to kill everybody with your Sky Piercer build and the shadow kills here. It's very threatening early game, but once you get to the mid to late game transition and those defensive items come in too, he had such a difficult time, and Ecuador played to that part really well by just bunching up a lot of the times, to help kind of negate some of that damage. And even this Sicilian, time and time again, has been popping up and playing so well for the teams that do pick it up. We don't even get to super late games, but he's still able to pump out quite a bit of damage. And this was just a really well thought out draft from Ecuador. I really like the export pick here too. This was at least my first time throughout the qualifiers to see the export in the jungle, and it worked wonders. Again, you saw how much damage he was able to do. This time around. Yeah, the last insanity is insane, and it complemented the team lineup that they had very, very well here. And I think that's what Guatemala struggled with, was dealing with that front-loaded damage, because your Netherrealm was pretty much gone. It was like voided because of the fact that you had a Last Insanity.
Last Insanity, Bats impact here from Nikolai Sicilian. I'm not surprised though that they were able to dish out this much damage. I think like 8 minutes into the game. Nikolai was starting to hurt to the point that you see Rios Montt actually prioritizing to take him down, but with the Matilda, with the heavy front line that they had, it was really difficult to kind of bounce back from the situation. And after getting shut down a couple of times, this is the part where I believe Rosa picked up a triple kill. All of the layering skills were just so good, and with Sub, the only one left to defend the base here, Naisu, it was over as Ecuador. It's not easy to pull off a reverse sweep, and they did it for this game. 12 minutes in, I'm actually really surprised that the Sicilian was able to scale up this fast. 54,000 damage coming out from Nikolai, and I think it's just I would say a very good answer to like a very tanky lineup, apart from having, a Claude. The Sicilian just keeps on stacking. I've seen a meme with a Sicilian. I just stack up endlessly until I can destroy your team. And it's not even like mid-game, right? Like, he's just able to wreak havoc here. I mean, to think that you're working with 2 tanks, you got a Faramis to sustain, they were able to do just that.
Yeah, very impressive. Again, very quick game too, 12 minutes. It just feels like they learned everything from game 1 and game 2, and Ecuador is like, all right, let's go, put it into drive. And they ended up making it work in such a fast way. And even the lineup that they had, you'd think it needs a little more time to build up, especially with the Sicilian here, but that wasn't the case. They made it work regardless. And I'm wondering who the MVP is going to be for this, because they all played their part.
Nikolai?
It's going to be INR on the Xborg. Great performance, 3-0 and 12, like we said. Just the value of the Last Insanity alone was so crucial here. And that's why I think too, with the Ice Queen wand being built in, like, slow is massive, and it's good enough to just go ahead, and even if INR died, which he didn't here, it'd be fine, because his job is actually just to slow everyone down and then get that damage burst, especially when you're dealing with a Netherrealm across from you. So very smart drafting, very good play here coming out from the team from Ecuador. And GGWP to Guatemala, I think they did their best, and they tried some things. They experimented a little bit, I would say, especially with some of the role swaps and everything else that they did, the substitutes as well. But ultimately, that's the nature of competition. Someone's got to lose. And so now we have our matches set up for tomorrow, of course, which can't wait to see. I know it's been a long day for us here at Burger Kim. Any final things you want to say about the day before we wrap up?
Yeah, actually, it kind of reminds me that final lineup of Ecuador too. Like, I've seen like some skin skin teasers here and there, and they actually worked around with like a new squad skin, if I'm not mistaken, the Xborg, the Cecilion, and the Roger, all in the same team. But you guys have to like wait for the full announcements. That's something I actually noticed when we were like looking at the end of the game. Reverse sweep, I would say we opened the day with 3 games, closed the day with 3 games with the same team, Guatemala this time, falling short up against Ecuador. So overall, a good game, GGWP, and congratulations to Ecuador for making it to the next round.
And there we go. That's going to do it for us here, guys, for the stream for today. Again, we still have one more day left of the American Regional Qualifiers. We're also going to be doing the women's games tomorrow as well. So we'll see you then. Again, I'm Nice. This is Burger Kim, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow to wrap up the American Regional Qualifier, the road to WEC.